All right, good morning or good afternoon, depending on when you are watching this video. This is for Wednesday, October 7th. We're not having a live session today, so I made this quick recording to go over some of the slides that you need to complete your student guide and provide some guidance and answers or discussion. So the big idea for these lessons are we are going to use properties of arithmetic and properties of equality to solve equations systematically. So what I'd like you to do now is go get your student guide. This is M1 Solving Equations Part 2 student guide and find this warm-up. This is the third warm-up in your student guide, the next one that you should see in your student guide. And just pause the recording while you complete the warm-up. So many of you probably did the warm-up like this. So you first distributed the 3. And one of the common mistakes is students forget to multiply not only 3 to x, 3x, but 3 to the 5, and you get 15. So now we have a pretty easy two-step equation to solve here. X is being multiplied by 3, and then we're adding 15. So let's use inverse operations to undo those. So we are going to subtract 15 from both sides, and we get 3x equals 30, and then divide both sides by 3, and we get x equals 10. This may look similar to one of the problems that you did yesterday in the breakout room, the first one. And some of you may have tried to do it differently, and there is actually another way that you could solve this question. So let's take a look at the next slide. Sam solved the equation. Check her work. Is she correct? So again, pause the video and look at the work here and see if you feel like her work. She got the same answer, but is her work correct? So some of you may have said yes, and some of you may have said no, but actually this answer is also correct. So yes, she is correct. And so what she chose to do, and I actually saw some people do this in the breakout room yesterday, she chose to divide both sides by 3, okay? And this works nicely because the value on the right-hand side is divisible by 3. So when you divide both sides by 3, so we didn't distribute here, these 3 cancels out, right? Because 3 times something divided by 3, those 3, right? 3 divided by 3 equals 1. So in this case, they didn't distribute. They got x plus 5 equals 15. 45 divided by 3 is 15. And now, again, we still have to do at least one more step. We have to subtract 5 from both sides, and we got x equals 10. So this is a second way that you could solve this particular equation. So when would you want to use this? Well, when you would like to use this is in two things you want to check out. First, there's only one expression on the left, and it's a distributive property. So there's no other terms. There's not like plus something else, minus something else. There's nothing else on the left-hand side. It's just a value times something in parentheses. Because if you divide by that value in front of the parentheses, they cancel out. But you might want to look on the right-hand side as well and see if that is also divisible. So if this were like 50 and 50 is not divisible by 3, can you still do it? Sure. But then you're going to have to deal with fractions. Okay? When you're solving equations, you don't want to use decimals until the very end. You can put your final answer in decimal form, but you don't want to put them in decimal beforehand because if you do any kind of rounding, it will mess up you won't have an exact answer. All right, so you have to work with fractions. So if this 45 were some other number that was not divisible by 3, then this method would not be as easy to implement. Not saying you can't do it, you just have to work with fractions. So you want to do it when the one side of your equation has a distributive type of expression, but nothing else. So there's nothing else being added or subtracted here. And you want to make sure that the values on both sides of the equation are divisible by that number. So if we let's look at this one. We have 7 times the quantity x minus 8, so it would be real easy to divide the left side by 7, correct? They would just cancel out. Nice, easy cheese, right? Easy peasy. However, if you try to divide 43 by 7, you get a decimal, 6.1. So it does not factor evenly. So if you did divide both sides by 7, then you would have to deal with a fraction of 43 sevenths. or a mixed number, which would be 6 and 1/3. Again, you could not use decimals here. So in this case, you would want to go back and not use this method and use your distributive method would be the recommendation. Okay, so for this one, not use this method. Not divisible. Okay, so that's when we say divisible. It's not that you can't divide it. We mean it's not a factor. You don't get a whole number. Okay, so take a minute to write whatever you need to do in your notes. Again, this method, when would you want to use it? And maybe when would you consider not? Here we would just distribute the 7. All right, so moving on. Essential question. While you're working, hopefully on your assignment yesterday, and while you're working today, I want you to think about how can we use the properties of arithmetic to solve equations? And that's the distributive, the commutative, and the associative properties. How are you using them when you're solving equations? So I want you to check your student guide now, all right, and see if you've completed check for understanding number 1. If you have not completed check for your understanding number 1, please pause the video and complete that now. Just so you know, you can use as a reference. This is similar to example 2 and exercise 2 that we already did in class. So use them as a reference. And we also did a similar problem in part 1 student guide if you want to go back to that as well. Okay, so hopefully you were able to complete the check for understanding. I wanted to have it done in your student guide. Don't worry about it, whether it's right or wrong. Just make sure you showed all your work so I can give you feedback when you submit your student guide. The next one is the exit ticket. If you have not completed the exit ticket in your student guide, I want you to complete it now. Tyler solved the equation and showed his work. In his solution, is his solution correct? If yes, what properties did he use? If no, what was his mistake? So here's the work. Here's the equation. 4x minus 4 divided by 5 equals 16. This is the work he did. He added 4 to both sides, and this is what he got in black. And then what he performed, he did in red, and he got this final answer. So your choices are A, Tyler is correct. He used the addition property and the multiplication property. B, Tyler is correct. He used the subtraction property and the division property. C, Tyler is incorrect. He added 4 to both sides instead of 4/5. And D, Tyler is incorrect. He should have multiplied by 5 and divided by 4 after adding 4 to both sides. Okay. We don't have to work about E, still working, not sure, because you're going to pause the video now, and when you're done answering the question, you're going to hit play. All right, well, the correct answer is C. First of all, the answer is incorrect. If you plug 25 into this, you would get 4 times 25 is 100. 100 minus 4 is 96, and 96 divided by 5 is not 16. I think it's like 19.2 something or whatever. Okay, but it's not 16, so that's false. So we know then A and B are incorrect. So then we say, why is he wrong? Okay, well, D says that what he should do after adding 4 to both sides, but that is actually where the mistake is, adding 4. You can't add 4 to both sides. That's why C is correct, because this is not minus 4, it's actually minus 4/5. This 4 is being divided by 5. So you could have added 4/5 to both sides if you wanted to use the addition property first. Okay. This one, okay, if he added, if this were correct, which it's not, if you had this problem, 4x divided by 5 equals 20, if that were a correct equation, or our initial equation, it is okay to multiply by the reciprocal. You don't have to do that in 2 steps. Okay. Unfortunately, this equation at this particular step was incorrect. But if this was correct, you can multiply both sides by 4/5. So that's not a mistake. The mistake was adding 4 to both sides. All right. So yesterday, this was your classwork. You were asked to complete these 3 problems. If you started yesterday but didn't complete them, you should complete them now. If you completed them or some of them yesterday in class and I didn't get to meet with you in a breakout room, you will receive an email today with your slide and some feedback provided. Okay? If you work on these today and you want to send me your work to check, you can send it in an email and I will check. But if you haven't completed those, please complete them now. Hit the pause button, please. Okay, so you've completed these 3 problems in your student guide. And your answer should be x equals 6, y equals 10, and a equals 5. Okay? I didn't show the work here, but there are your answers. If you didn't get those answers, then you want to go back and check your work. This is the work that I'm showing you. So if you want to see where you made your mistake, if you didn't get those answers and you showed your work, check with these on the board. If you got the right answer, also check and make sure you're showing your work correctly. It is critical that you show me what you do to both sides. I don't want to see you subtracting something from one side and it just disappears from the other. You have to actually show what you're doing to both sides of the equation. Now, for the first one, there was 2 ways to solve it. This was one way using the distributive property, or you could have divided both sides by 3 here. Because 24, right, is divisible by 3, you get a whole number 8. So in this case, you could have used that method that we saw in our warm-up today. So again, yesterday your homework was to complete practice problems 1 through 6 in your student guide. Again, if you haven't done that, you should do it now and make sure you show all your work. In the class plan today, I will give you the solutions, what the variables should equal. I'm not going to show you all the work and steps. So if you got any incorrect, you can try to fix them, or when you submit your student guide, I will give you feedback. Okay, but they should be done. The more you practice, the better you get. You got to give it a try. You're allowed to use your notes, right, to help with problems in your student guide as well as your online practice. There's a challenge problem in your student guide. It is optional. You do not have to complete it. However, if you do and you show all your work and it's correct, you could earn bonus points. So that's optional. You do not have to do the challenge problem. Make sure you're ready tomorrow to answer and share your thoughts on the essential question. How can we use properties of arithmetic to solve equations? And your assignment for today, everything that we previously talked to other than the warm-up should have been completed already. But at this point, your student guide should be done. And now you can complete the M1 solving equations practice number 2. I hope you have a wonderful day. Again, I am working today. You can send me emails. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I look forward to see you guys in class tomorrow. Have a great day.